This is a work of political and social commentary. The content of this video is not meant for children under the age of 13. Parental discretion is advised. I'm sure by now you've noticed the new disclaimer at the beginning of my videos. I haven't been asked yet why I'm starting with a COPPA disclaimer, but I have been asked about the wording which I use. I'll answer those questions as I share some roasted opinions on COPPA. Let's start by pointing out the obvious. COPPA predates YouTube's creation by 5 years. There was never a moment in the history of YouTube in which COPPA did not apply to it. Not one. YouTube has always had a responsibility to ensure that access to their content by children under the age of 13 was monitored, and that advertising data was not collected on those children when using the service. Now, YouTube and Google were recently fined by the FTC about $170 million for violations of COPPA. This wasn't the actual amount of fine for which they were liable. This was the settlement agreed upon by Google and YouTube with the FTC. The fine for which they could have been held liable was significantly more than this, since every single incident was a separate fine. Facebook was fined for similar violations in July, settling for $5 billion. Now, these fines are numerically huge, but even Facebook's fine is less than 10% of its annual revenue. YouTube's fine, by comparison, is less than 1% of its quarterly advertising revenue. Not exactly a slap on the wrist, but not exactly crippling either. As part of the settlement, YouTube has to create a better screening program. It would make the most sense to me as a creator and consumer of content on YouTube for the platform to create algorithms that do two things: target advertising to specific content instead of specific users, and limit access to content deemed inappropriate for individuals under 13 and under 18. This would create a tiered approach and allow ad space to be sold on nearly all content. YouTube would only need to label certain content as inappropriate for advertising and leave the rest of the monetized content as available. Instead, what YouTube has done is to transfer the onus squarely onto the creators. Creators must now label their content as either made for children, not made for children, or not suitable for advertising. If YouTube decides that the content is mislabeled, then they can and will remove videos and even shut down channels. Creators will also be responsible for the $42,000 fines levied by the FTC for each mislabeled video. YouTube gives creators the opportunity to label every video as not made for children. If creators mislabel a video, then they can lose their video and eventually their channel. That's on top of the $42,000 fine per video. And when YouTube instituted this feature, the creators had to go back and label all of their content. Think about this. Every mislabeled video is a $42,000 fine from the FTC and a channel strike from YouTube. YouTube likes to use algorithms to screen content. Channels like this one have dozens of videos, if not hundreds. So, without some careful attention to detail, creators could wind up with millions of dollars worth of fines from the FTC on their content, on top of the loss of their channel from a YouTube ban. Gee, YouTube, thanks. I appreciate you negotiating that little tidbit for us. Now, why did YouTube do this? To leverage our outrage, of course. There are millions and millions of creators, and if we all scream about this, then it may shift sentiment enough to force the repeal of COPPA. COPPA is the enemy, according to YouTube. No. Just no. This is another fine mess which YouTube made by not enforcing their own policies. Subscribers under the age of 18 must obtain their parents' verifiable permission to open accounts. No one under the age of 13 is allowed to open an account either. YouTube's mistake was allowing kids under age 13 to obtain accounts in violation of their own terms of service and then bragging about it to advertisers. Their second mistake was to make sure that their videos could be watched by somebody who has not logged in. And why not? While kids may not be able to create their own accounts without a parent's permission, the videos are still available on a Google web search to the general public, and the safe search feature is up to the parents to activate. limiting accounts to teenagers and adults is not limiting content on YouTube very well, is it? Still, it's not YouTube's responsibility to ensure that kids under age 13 are supervised when accessing content. Parents are responsible for supervising their kids, and that includes when they are online. That's why I didn't use the phrase viewer discretion is advised and instead used parental discretion is advised. Parents are responsible for supervising their kids' activities, not the government, not the platform, and not the content creators. I do my best to avoid certain words and images which would make my videos inappropriate for the high school classroom, but the subjects about which I make videos are not normally subjects discussed by young children, and certainly not in the way that they are discussed on this channel. Rather, I am attempting to create content which gets teenagers and adults to think, research, decide, and articulate positions. In other words, I believe in an informed society, and I hope that this channel helps to inform people in those age categories and their positions. Let's just hope that the algorithms don't decide that having a cartoon avatar makes this channel's content for kids. Anyway, that's why Roasted Opinions now has a disclaimer, because parents, the government, and the platforms all think that it's up to creators to solve this problem. I'm not your nanny, folks. No creator is or should be.